What's good, everyone, and welcome into another edition of the World Class Hoops podcast here for October 25th, 2021. I'm your host, Chris Rouse, coming to you from my hometown of Chicago, Illinois. And I mean, this is just a homegrown episode. I mean, I had to bring in one of my favorite beat reporters, Luke Stanczyk of Primetime Sports. Welcome into the show, Luke Stanczyk.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting for my check from Eric Willowhite for being a beat reporter. He gave me a title, so I need to get a salary that comes with the title. So I'm waiting for that money. You know, he can Venmo with me whenever he wants. But all joking aside, Chris, thanks for having me on again. I know I was on a couple months ago. It's good to be back. And we got some fun stuff to talk about this time, man. We got a top 75 list. We got a winning Bulls team for the first time since you and I have known each other.
Yeah, man.
So this is gonna be fun. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, most definitely, man. I mean, it's an exciting time in the city. The Sky just won the championship. So,
yes.
So I mean, personally, I'm a little biased. I think we're the mecca of basketball, but of course, I'm biased because I'm from here. So no shots, New York. Don't take it personal. I'm just from Chicago. But Luke Stanczyk, he's joining me here. You can find him on Twitter. There you can see at L Stanczyk Sports. Also, he's on Primetime Sports with my good buddy Eric Willowhite. I just saw Eric over the weekend, so salute to Eric. But today we're here to talk Chicago Bulls, get into our first week impressions of the 3-0 Bulls. But before we talk Chicago Bulls, we got to talk about what everybody else has been talking about. We got to talk about the NBA 75 list. So,
yes.
In honor of the NBA 75th season, and it feels like an eternity ago. I remember being 6 when they did the NBA 50 back in 96, 97. So it feels like that was an eternity ago. But the NBA 75, they announced the 75th anniversary team. Anybody on the list in particular, any agreements and disagreements that you had from the NBA 75 list?
I honestly thought it was a pretty darn good list. When I looked at it, I didn't really think there were any glaring like omissions or snubs or people that shouldn't be on there. I think the one question I probably have, and I know this is one that has been talked about a little bit. I think Damian Lillard being on there over someone like Dwight Howard might be a little recency bias. I just remember growing up how dominant Dwight Howard was, and I feel like people have kind of forgotten about that because of the way he's been the last, 7-8 years, how he's just kind of bounced around, and he's probably been in the league a little too long.
Yeah.
So I think someone like him or Vince Carter, maybe over Damian Lillard would be my one very, very minor gripe. I know Dame's got a case.
Yeah.
I just feel like Dame has maybe a couple more years of solid play before I'd put him ahead of one of those two guys. But all in all, I thought it was great. I also think I don't want to diss history at all because I know it's important.
Yeah.
Some of these like super, old NBA guys, like you take a look at their numbers and stuff, and the game was totally a bit different back then. But like Paul Arizin, Dolph Shays, like some of these guys, and so it's like, okay, like I guess you need to include them, but I mean, I would think that Vince Carter and Dwight Howard and some of Tracy McGrady and some guys like that probably have had more impact on the game than they did. And that could just be completely recency bias by me.
I was about to say that now. That's kind of you having a recency bias.
Yeah,
that's kind of you having a recency bias.
It'll be interesting to see what true because I know there are some people out there that are like true NBA historians that like really have like dove into and like seen film on all these guys and stuff and have an understanding of really what basketball was like back then that you probably have more than I do because you're a bigger basketball nerd than I am. But
that's what I do, man.
I also wonder if those guys do they really belong in there over someone like Vince Carter? Just those are probably my only two like issues I'd go with it. But overall, I think they did a great job. And did you see? I know the NBA press release had like the committee that picked it.
Yes, it did.
I read through that, and I thought that was a great, like, diverse group of people.
I did too, because you had players and media members of all kinds. You had people that have been around for 30 years and people been around for under 10 years. So I thought it was a good mix.
Yeah, they're all WNBA players were on there. A lot of writers were on there. I was interested that Adam Silver was not on there. So he obviously probably formed a committee, but like he didn't even get a vote himself. I thought that was interesting. I would think if you're the commissioner of the league, you'd want to vote, but I guess, leave it up to your committee. So I thought that was interesting too.
My thoughts on the NBA 75 list. Personally, I totally loved it. I thought everybody on the list was deserving. I totally love that everybody that made NBA 50 was back on it, because I thought, like, come on, you can't put somebody on and then take them off. It's so I feel the opposite of how you feel about Paul Arizin, and that's how I kind of knew that's who was the first person you were gonna say, because I was like, I don't know, but I'm not in the business of saying like, hey, all right, you're great. Nah, I know you're not giving back. So I don't think you can really say that, especially. So I thought that was great that they kept all 50, all of the original 50 on there. I hear your argument for Damian Lillard, or your argument against Damian Lillard, but I think that's also the same argument you can use for James Harden, who's in there for MVP and scoring titles, and also you kind of could say that for Anthony Davis with just one championship. Yeah. But my reverse argument for that would be, my counter argument for that would be, all three of those guys are moving at a Hall of Fame pace. Yeah. Now you can argue about placement. Klay Thompson, I mean, he'll be in NBA 100. Like, I feel Klay, but it's like, you want your flowers now, but he'll be in NBA 100. Yeah. Dwight Howard is the only person that I will absolutely make a case for. Like, you could take Harden, Lillard, or Davis off and put Dwight Howard on.
Hey, and maybe that's what Howard and Davis were arguing about on the bench.
And I was gonna say that was the easy joke. That was the first thing I thought when I saw it. I was like, "Oh man, come on!" like they lobbing this up for me here, man. Like, but I'm with you. Dwight Howard in Orlando was dominant, man. You honestly could take the last 6 years of his career off, and he was still going to the Hall of Fame. And think about what that means. That takes away his championship in the 4 or 5 years where he was in Atlanta, Washington, Philadelphia, and Charlotte. So Dwight Howard, I think he should go in. I thought I would have put him in over one of the three guys I named, but also they had 76 because there was a tie, but they didn't say between who. So
I remember Dwight Howard. Obviously he kind of put the team on his back and brought them to the finals the one year. But I remember
2009.
I remember the 2010-11 year when the Bulls were rolling. There was a game where Orlando came to Chicago, and the Bulls were just locking everybody down on defense that whole season, and they couldn't stop Dwight Howard. Yeah. And I was just like, this is the best defensive team in the league, and we have no answer for Dwight Howard. And I remember being a little – I knew the Bulls probably still won. I remember being worried about facing them in the playoffs in that second round because I knew it was going to be tough for us to stop Dwight. Now, they got upset by the Hawks, which helped the Bulls, I thought, but – I remember being scared of that team because of Dwight Howard, and I don't know if, like I said, he was just so dominant, and again, I think people have just forgotten about that because he's kind of been a little bit of a clown show the last 7-8 years. Yeah. So
the off the court issues have definitely overshadowed him, but like you said, man, dominant defensive player, 3-time defensive player of the year. I think he had like 1,000 blocks in Orlando, like just so he would go into the Hall just off of that alone in Orlando.
Speaking of defense, I don't think this guy belongs on the list, but just a name that popped in my head. What about Ben Wallace for, during those Piston days, linchpin of that team?
That's an interesting question because I kind of feel the same way about him that I feel about Vince Carter and guys like Grant Hill and Tracy McGrady. Like, if your career is over now and you didn't make it, I don't really know what to tell you about NBA 100. So, I mean, so maybe NBA 100, maybe those are guys that are going to probably come into question again in 25 years.
I saw that there was one name that wasn't on the top 50, NBA 50, and didn't play another game in their career between 50 and 75 that got put on. And that was, I believe, Bob McAdoo was the only one that was an addition from like the previous era. Everyone else has played since then.
Right.
So like you said, that probably doesn't bode well, because who knows in the next 25 years of people that will be on there. Like, I mean, Luka Doncic will be on there. Trae Young will probably be on there.
Probably.
Just think of all the guys that are going to play. So, right. Yeah. Doesn't bode well for those guys. That's for sure.
Yeah. But once again, the NBA 75 list doing what it does, causing debate. But we're here to celebrate. We're here to talk about fun because Luke Stanczyk of Primetime Sports. Chicago Bulls basketball is fun again. The Bulls are 3-0. They've beaten the Pistons twice, and they've beaten the Pelicans. No Zion Williamson. But You got to beat who's on. You got to beat who's on. You got to play who's on the schedule, and the Bulls have beaten everybody so far. First week impressions on the Chicago Bulls.
Definitely very, very impressed and encouraged. I think, especially, I almost think their most impressive win was the first one. And it's funny to say that because they played the worst in that game, but they won that game based off of their defense.
Yes.
And I cannot remember a game in the last, ever since Tibbs left, where they won so emphatically because of their defense. Like, they may have had some wins over the last few years where they played decent defense and won, but they won that game solely because of defense. Like, it certainly wasn't their offense that won in that first game. It was all their defense. And, I think now you're seeing in the NBA, defense is probably like 90% attitude and effort. Like, if you're a team that's going to bring it in a regular season defensively, then you're gonna be average because a lot of teams don't bring it every night on defense. It's just a matter of fact. So when you combine that with the fact that this team is much more athletic than they were last season, that just makes for a good defensive team. And I think people were kind of overlooking that coming into the year of, oh, well, they weren't good last year on defense, and they added some pieces and you kind of don't know how they're all going to fit. So who knows how the defense is going to be? They might not have been great individual defenders elsewhere, but they're all athletic and they've all bought into what Donovan is selling them defensively. And when you have an athletic team that's bought in on defense, that's dangerous. Like that's hard to. That's probably not going to be a bad defensive team. That they're going to figure it out. So I think that bodes well for them when they play good teams because I think the Bulls have shown that they're athletic and they're gonna bring effort. Like if you come play the Bulls, you better bring effort. If you don't match their effort, you're going to be in trouble. So I think it sets up for them to be a pretty darn good team this year from what we've seen.
I agree with you. I agree with you with the win against Detroit on opening night being probably their most impressive win because it was a win they grinded out with the defense, like you said. And think about what we're talking about. Chicago Bulls basketball is fun again. And the first thing we're talking about is defense. We're not talking about the four guys averaging 13 points or better. We're talking about how they're clamping teams down. We're talking about Lonzo Ball showing his ability to defend on the perimeter and inside against driving opposing players. Zach LaVine getting much better at moving his feet, closing out on shots. Nikola Vucevic walking double-double. Javonte Green. I want to get your thoughts on Javonte Green. His agility, his athleticism, his versatility for this Bulls team has been key. What are your thoughts on Javonte Green?
Yeah, he's been incredible, and he was incredible in the preseason. You saw him play in place of Patrick Williams, and you started thinking, well, they might have something with this guy as a nice bench piece, and he looks like he's going to be. Again, I said this team is going to bring effort. Like it starts with him. Like he checks in the middle of the first quarter with that second unit, and it's instant energy. And it's him. He's in your face, and him, along with Caruso and Ball and Ayo, are just like complete pests on defense. Like it's been so much fun to watch. And in Javonte's case, I think he is, to me, he's like the poster child for the scouting ability of Arturis and Eversley. They went and then sought him out. He's basically a throw-in at the deadline last year in one of those trades. And they obviously wanted that guy for a reason. They saw something in him. And now Billy Donovan is putting him in positions to succeed. And that's a lot of – it's almost like in any other sport, like especially like I kind of in football sometimes. Football right now, we're all talking about how Nagy doesn't put guys in positions. Like the Bulls with Lonzo and with Caruso and with Green and with Ayo – they're putting these guys in roles and in positions where it's going to maximize who they are. It's going to maximize their strengths. Like they're playing a completely different style of defense than they played last year. They're fighting over screen instead of dropping down, playing that drop coverage. They're not doing that as much anymore because
no more of that blitzing the ball handler either. Like that blitzing the ball handler and trying to run 25 feet to cover. Like no more of that. Like we're seeing a lot better defense
because they have pieces. They're designing their team and their scheme to the pieces they have.
Exactly.
And that's a sign of good coaching and it's a sign of cohesion between front office and coach. Like there's just a lot of things to be encouraged about. Like we haven't seen this type of synergy, I feel like, with a roster since Tibbs.
Yeah. I would say the D-Rose, I would say the bench mob era. I mean, the last time I was excited about the Bulls coming into the season was the D Wade, Jimmy Butler, Rondo year, and what we're seeing out of this Bulls team right now, we keep talking about defense, but it's turning into points off turnover. They're averaging 24 points off turnover. We're seeing alley-oop dunks, highlight plays. We're seeing Javonte Green catch alley-oops, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Patrick Williams catching alley-oops but laying them in because he's still coming back from injury. So it's like, everybody's flying around the court, man. It's just an exciting time in Chicago Bulls basketball again. And DeMar DeRozan, man, I mean, the mid-range scoring is just automatic. I mean, one of the best mid-range scorers in the league. He has been for years. But let me get your thoughts on this Bulls offense. I mean, even with all the scoring, they're still 20th in the league in points per game. So what's going on with the Bulls offense? Can you chalk this up to just a filling out process? That's what I've been chalking it up to.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think also they haven't shot it super well yet. They haven't shot it as well as they can. Like, Nikola Vucevic is shooting 35% from the floor. Like, that's not going to be the case this season. We know that. DeRozan's shooting 44%. He'll probably raise that a little bit. Especially, and I feel like a lot of it's dragged down by that first game where they just missed a lot of bunnies.
Yeah.
It was a tough night for them offensively. So
especially Vucevic. He had about 3 or 4 wide open missed layups. Ayo had 1-2 down the stretch, but they got the win.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's going to be one of those things where it is a little bit of a feeling out process, and they'll probably get a little more smoother and better as things go along. I think it was after the first game, Billy Donovan's quote was, "We need to be more free-flowing." I think that's what he said. And I think free-flowing is probably a good word because you'll probably see them be a little more, the offense will be a little more natural, won't be as choppy, which it was, it wasn't like that at all versus New Orleans. And I think in the fourth quarter versus Detroit got a little bit like that. But in general, I think it's going to probably get smoother and improve as the season goes along. The thing I do like about it is I feel like they have the ability to play. They want to play fast, but with somebody like DeRozan and Vooch, they also have the ability to slow the game down with those two guys and get good offense when you slow the game down. Because you could play a half-court game and have DeRozan play out of the high post and shoot in the mid-range or work with Vooch. They can play at both paces offensively. So I think they're going to figure out how to balance that as we move forward.
And also with Vucevic, you're talking about a guy that's pretty much a walking double-double. I mean, you saw the numbers earlier, 13 points a game, 13 points, 12 rebounds. So a lot of talent on this Bulls team moving forward, and also a lot of talent coming back because, I mean, Kobe White, he's still out recovering from shoulder surgery. So the question for Kobe White, where does he fit into this Bulls team when he comes back from injury?
I think it's pretty simple. I think he slides into that bench scorer role, which that's the one thing the bench really doesn't have right now is they don't have someone to come in and give them instant offense off the bench. I mean, the best offensive player checking off the bench right now is probably Ayo. Like, it's kind of tough to say, but the point is they don't really have like a score microwave type guy off the bench. And, Kobe White drew a lot of comparisons in his rookie season to Ben Gordon, if you remember.
Yeah, I remember. That's why I wanted him.
I think that's exactly who he's going to be when he comes back.
Offensively, anyway.
He doesn't have to be a pure point guard anymore. They have Lonzo, who'll play alongside Lonzo at times. They have Caruso, who'll play alongside him sometimes. Heck, they have Ayo. He may play along Ayo sometimes, and Ayo's primary ball handler. So he can focus on getting the ball heating up and scoring. And they need that. Like, that's something that they're going to need when they play Brooklyn and they play Atlanta and these teams that can really light it up on offense. It can't just be all Zach on those nights. Like, Zach can win you a lot of games by himself on offense sometimes, but if you're going to beat some really good teams, you're going to need another element of instant offense. And it doesn't have to come from the starting lineup. It can come from the bench. And I think that's a role that's perfect for Kobe White. He was great in it as a rookie. He's not a guy that you want to constrain. You kind of want to just throw him out there and say, okay, Kobe, you let it fly, you let it loose. And, if you're cold, we'll make adjustments in the fourth quarter. But if you're not, we're going to roll with you. So I think his fit's pretty easy. I think it's pretty seamless. And when he comes back, I don't think there's going to be we got to assimilate and he's got to assimilate to a role. I think this role is just supernatural for him. Like he's going to he was great as a rookie in that role. He's going to be probably great when he comes back.
All right, Chicago Bulls 3-0 right now, getting ready to probably play an uptick in competition. So far, we keep hearing about the Bulls have only beaten Detroit twice. They've only beaten the Pelicans without Zion Williamson. Well, tonight they'll play Toronto, who's been without Pascal Siakam, has literally the same shoulder injury that Kobe White has. He's recovering from surgery. And then coming up later in the week, they'll see the New York Knicks, who have been making some threes, and the Utah Jazz, who are also undefeated. So for the Bulls, game against Toronto tonight, what do you think? Is this key for the Bulls in terms of getting to 4-0 before they go into this tough part of their tough part of their schedule going into November?
Yeah, when I saw the schedule come out and we kind of got through the preseason, I thought to myself, well, if they can go 3-1 here in these first 4, it'll set themselves up nicely for that tough stretch. But the way the Bulls have looked, like, I expect them to win tonight, and I'll be disappointed if they don't. I think Vooch is questionable with illness. I'm not sure if you saw anything.
Yes, he is questionable with illness, is the latest report.
And even if he doesn't play, I think this is a game they should win. Like, Toronto is just void in talent right now. They're just not, they're in full-on rebuilding mode.
I disagree with that. Gary Trent Jr. has been playing pretty good. Also,
Scotty Barnes has played really well.
Scotty Barnes, I thought he played good against Dallas. He struggled a little bit the first 2, and then they still have Van Vliet and OG Anunoby. So a little bit of talent on that Toronto team still.
I think it's a better team than the 2 teams they played previously. They're also going to be well coached. Nick Nurse is one of the best coaches in the NBA. Yeah. They did upset Boston a couple days ago, so they're definitely a more talented team than what they played. But they're clearly in a rebuild mode. They let Lowry go, and the Bulls have a lot more talent than they do. So I think the Bulls, the way they're playing right now, especially defensively, I expect them to probably have a pretty good defensive game tonight and get enough offense from Zach and DeMar to propel them to a win in this game on the road. Yeah. Especially with the chance to rest yesterday. I think they'll be ready to go tonight. And I think it's important because you got a tough game versus New York coming up. And then you mentioned the Jazz. The Jazz might be the best team in the NBA right now. Like, there's a debate there. They were the 1 seed in the West last year, and they look like they've picked up right where they left off. So,
healthy Donovan Mitchell.
Yep. Help Donovan Mitchell. Gobert has been doing his thing the first couple games. So I think that this is an important game for them because you could easily go, if you lose tonight, you can easily be 3-3 at the end of the week with the 2 games they have on the schedule. So I think tonight is important, and I would hope Billy Donovan, I'm sure he is, probably telling his team, like, hey, before we run into this tough stretch, let's make sure we take care of business one more time here, and don't look ahead to New York and make sure we beat Toronto.
So let me ask you, what are your thoughts on? All right, the Bulls are 3-0, but what are your thoughts on the Bulls in the grand scheme of the East? I mean, we've been talking about the defense all along. We've been talking about how we think the offense will come together. We love the bench play with guys like Javonte Green, Alex Caruso, the homegrown rookie Ayo Dosunmu looking good. Probably going to see him in Windy City a few times this year. So what are your thoughts? Where do you think the Bulls will place this year in the Eastern Conference? Off to a great start, but where do they fit when you consider the rest of the East?
That's a good question. I said at the beginning of the year, I was talking with some buddies, and I proclaimed 6th seed is what I said. I'm going to bump that up to 5. I think the combination of the first 3 games plus, look, this drama, I know Philly's played okay. This drama in Philly is just not going away.
Yeah.
And it's going to, at some point, it's going to weigh that locker room down. It's going to weigh that team down. And unless they can get somebody better than Ben Simmons for Ben Simmons, which I don't think they will, I don't see how they're going to stack up with the better teams in the East, as the season moves along. So I had them behind Philly. I had Philly at 5 and Chicago at 6, but I'm gonna flip those now. Milwaukee's Milwaukee. Brooklyn is still going to be Brooklyn in the end, I think, even though without Kyrie, I still think they're going to – I know they have their struggles. You and I have talked about their struggles on Twitter with each other. So
yes,
we're on the same page with that. Yeah. But I still think they're a better team than the Bulls. Atlanta's looks like they've picked up right where they left off. I think they're a force to be reckoned with. And I love what Miami has done. I think Miami has been really, really good. Adding Butler, with Butler, adding Lowry to that team. I think they're a solid team that's probably just maybe a little step ahead of the Bulls right now. So I bet those 4 ahead of the Bulls. So I'd kind of slot them in at 5.
right now. I had the Bulls at 5 also coming into the season, but like you said, with Philadelphia's drama, I'm not so sure about Kyrie. I would put the Bulls probably at 4th, with Atlanta and Philly probably battling for that 5-6 spot. Watch out for Miami. I think Miami is the team to really watch in the East. I think they really did a good job of building the roster, adding Kyle Lowry and PJ Tucker. Plus, they already had shooting in with Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and then Dwayne Dedman, and then already Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. So I think Miami can end up being the team that you end up seeing probably taking the East if something should happen with Milwaukee or Brooklyn.
Who, before I know we're going off script here a little bit, but I want to hear your thoughts on this. Who are your dark horse teams? If you got a dark horse team in each conference to make noise in the playoffs, I'm not saying they're going to make the finals or anything because we kind of know where those teams are, but what's your one team that we haven't really mentioned that you think has a chance to maybe win a series come playoff time?
The Charlotte Hornets. I think the Charlotte Hornets have a chance. 3-0, led by my way too early Coach of the Year pick, James Borrego. Big win against Brooklyn last night, yesterday, whenever it happened. I think it was afternoon. But good big win for Charlotte. I like the Hornets out east, man. And on top of that, a real young team, a lot of young legs. Kelly Oubre is kind of like the veteran, and he's like in his late 20s himself. So pretty young team. But out west, I don't think they'll even make the playoffs. But watch the Sacramento Kings. Harrison Barnes has been playing very well so far, as is Davion Mitchell. But if you're talking about a team that might get into the playoffs and probably win a series, Minnesota would have to play a bunch of teams that play defense like Houston, because I mean Minnesota looked like a 4 seed against the Rockets on opening night. So Minnesota's got a lot of good young talent too.
You read my mind. I was saying the same exact 3 teams.
Yeah.
And I said before the year, I was like, Hornets and Kings are my 2 teams to like really monitor. And I looked at the Wolves. I'm like, that trio they have, if they can kind of click, like that's a good group. We'll see what Chris Finch does as the coach there, but it'll be interesting. I think that it's been a fun first week in the NBA period, not just for the Bulls, but there's been some cool things that have happened. Like Chris Duarte scoring like 30.
Wow, that was amazing. Chris Duarte, 27 in his NBA debut
for the Pacers. I'm like, who is this guy? I don't even really remember him in college all that much. But
unfortunately, Indiana lost that game.
Yeah.
They blew an 18-point lead. And then like the next night against Washington, they had the lead late. Then Dinwiddie hit a 3 to force overtime before he put it away in overtime. So
that's another team. That's another team that's sneaky, the Wizards. Dinwiddie's a good pickup. I've been a little bit of a Daniel Gafford truther. Like I've always thought that
I have too, honestly, man. I like
and he's getting a chance now to start and play every game, and he's making an impact with energy. And Bradley Beal, and Kuzma. I've always liked Kuzma, so I think they're going to have a decent squad. They're going to be fighting. They're going to be in that play-in mix. I think Washington.
I think a lot of the guys on that Wizards team, they're playing carefree basketball. They don't have that LA pressure anymore. That's what you're seeing. Because Montrezl Harrell looks refreshed coming off the bench for the Wizards. And it's like, dude, you've been doing the same thing for the last 4 years. But he looks refreshed playing for the Wizards. So does Kuzma. So I like what's going on with the Wizards. But at the end of the day, my top 4 Nets. I picked I got Nets, Lakers making it in the finals. But Nets, Bucks, Heat, Bulls. Those are my top 4 out east right now. Or those are my top 4 those are my top 4 in the East this season.
I don't want it. I hope you're wrong. I'm sorry. I don't want to see Nets Lakers. Can we not? Like who do you root for? Who do you root for in that series? I mean,
I just root for great basketball. I just want to see all the points. I want to see every basket go in. I want to see every shot go in the basket. That's what I want to see.
The Nets are the new team to really dislike right now. So
not
maybe
not.
I guess I would lean Lakers, but then again, LeBron's ripped my heart out 4 times in my life, so I don't know if I could sit there and root for him. So
you think too deep about it. I'm just watching. I'm just watching, man. I just want to see the best possible finals if Chicago can't win it all.
You're a basketball junkie first, Bulls fan second. I'm Bulls fan first, basketball junkie.
I'm a Bulls fan first. It's just when the Bulls are in it, I just want to see good basketball. I don't care who wins or loses. I just want to see a good game.
I'll watch it at the expense of LeBron.
You gotta let that LeBron hate go, man. He's not even in the conference no more, man.
It's not hate, because I respect the out of LeBron.
Yeah.
He is, and I know we're bouncing all over the place here, but
That's all good.
your podcast, but that's what you call me on for. But I don't hate LeBron. I never really. I mean, when he was on the Heat, I did, but
yeah, I did.
I just
on Heat.
It's hard for me to want to cheer for a guy who has 4 times in my life completely taken my heart out and ripped it out. Like,
hey, he's in another
conference. I can't bring myself to want that guy to do well. Like, I can't do that.
I just, at this point in my life, I just admire LeBron for, like, imagine being 16 years old and being told you will be the next leader of the next generation of basketball. Yeah. And then he lived up to every bit of it. You can debate who you want, Jordan, Kobe, LeBron, Bill Russell, whoever. You can debate whoever you want about who's better. I just respect that alone. Just being a guy that was 16 years old. And here we are almost 20 years later, man. And he's still playing.
And he's done it aside from the decision and kind of that whole drama going on TV and all that. He's done it without any like hint of,
anything egregious off the court.
He's never done anything. Like he's never done anything that you can say is questionable. So,
and I like Space Jam too.
I haven't seen it, but it's not because I haven't wanted to. We just haven't had a chance, Emily and I. But like I want to see it. I've heard good and not so good, but I'm a little. I think a lot of the not so good. I think it's just because it's LeBron.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you, like, all right. Here's my thoughts. The original Space Jam will always be my favorite. It literally came out on my 6th birthday, so it'll always be my favorite. That Space Jam was for me. The new Space Jam was not for me. This is for my kids if I had some. This is for my kids. So when I watched it, I was like, all right, I'm already expecting this to be cheesy and corny and a kiddie movie, not for me. So I went into it with that mindset and I loved it. I enjoyed every second of it.
Well, because I've heard people be like, "Oh, the plot is stupid." I'm like, "Do you know the plot of the first
one? Right, the first
one. Is that not stupid either? Like he got sucked on a golf,
down a golf hole. Come on,
like Bugs Bunny sneaking in his house to steal his shoes underground. Like it's like, come on, like like it's a kids movie. Like if you go in there thinking it's not going to be a kids movie, then you probably need to reevaluate your expectations of what you're walking into the theater.
Right. Evaluate your approach to watching movies, man. Shout out to this NBA 75 player on my shirt right here. That's my all-time favorite player, Scottie Pippen.
Are you going to get his book?
It comes out before my birthday, but I don't know.
I love to read sports books like that, like stuff like autobiographies and historical accounts and stuff.
Yeah.
But my favorite book I've ever read is The Jordan Rules by Sam Smith. Like I thought that book was just incredible. So I'm going to read Pippen's book. Like,
okay.
I know a lot of people probably think he's a bit of a clown at this point, which kind of has been, but I'm just interested to see what anecdotes he has in there. Like, and if you put pen to paper, like now you're grounds to get sued. So I don't think whatever he says in there will probably have some truth to it. If not, he can get sued. So like, I'm interested to see what that says.
Yeah, I know it comes out. I know he pushed it up. It was supposed to come out the day after. I think it comes out November 9th, which is like a week before my birthday. So go ahead and check out the Scottie Pippen book, Unguarded, coming out in November. Free promo, Scotty, only because you my all-time favorite. Only because you my all-time favorite, Scotty. But Luke Stanczyk is on it, man. This is Luke Stanczyk, man. We talk Chicago Bulls. Coming up tomorrow on the World Class Hoops podcast, I got Josh Buckhalter of Clocker Sports, also a writer of Soaring Down South. He talks Atlanta Hawks. He writes for the Atlanta Hawks. He writes for the Bulls on Pippen Ain't Easy. So we're going to talk Atlanta Hawks and Eastern Conference. Any thoughts on the Atlanta Hawks before we get out of here, Luke?
I like them. I think they're a dangerous team. Again, they kind of brought everybody back. I don't know if they're come out of the Eastern Conference good, but I think they're a very, very good squad. And they're led by a really dynamic player in Trae Young. That's just really fun to watch. So, I mean, they're in that Bulls tier. I think I'd put them a little ahead of the Bulls right now, but I think they're kind of in that same tier. So, you'll have fun talking about them tomorrow. Yeah,
we're going to talk about Cam Reddish. Can he make that next week? So I'm gonna have Josh on the show. But for now, Luke, thank you for coming on again, man. Talk Bulls. I'm gonna have you on again later in the show, later in the season. So thanks for coming on and talking Bulls with me. Any final thoughts before you get out of here?
No, man. Just again, thanks for having me on. It's always a good time, and yeah, this is gonna be a fun year. I got a feeling we'll be talking playoff Bulls basketball at some point here, in the next 5-6 months or so. So pumped about it.
Yeah, so once again, thank you for coming in. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you all for tuning in. This has been another edition of the World Class Hoops Podcast. He's Luke Stanczyk. I'm Chris Rouse. Positive energy to you all. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you may be. Luke, stay out of that wind outside in Chicago, man. It's been going crazy, man. Be safe out here. You all have a good one.